You are either watching us on YouTube or listening on one of the many audio podcast providers that we have. Well, for Spreaker, Spotify, iTunes, and iHeartRadio. My name is Lee Addison. This is episode 18, and I have with me a drunkard, a drinking, a inebriated Taylor Brown drinking Stone and Wood there. What's this?
It's terrific Thursday. This is Mad Monday for the Rugby League Coach podcast. The season's over.
Mate, we're just warming up, mate. There's a World Cup to go. We're not going anywhere. All the Foxtel and Channel 9, they're all having a break, but not us, lad.
Well, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. So you still have to stop and smell the roses while they're there, Lee. All right?
Well, I don't think you're going to have your many roses after you've had a couple of those. Now, I have with me a full deck of cards today. We've got Tim Cheeseman, predicted South to win the comp, but that didn't eventuate, but they gave it a good crack, Tim. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you.
James Varley, all the way from the mother country. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, thanks, sir. Not bad at all.
And Ranil Kumar, or should I say, Keneal Rumar, and he was referred to as Keneal by somebody who met him down south in Sydney this week when I was with him, Taylor. He is a podcast star now, but I must, for the record, say that I was in convoy with Ranil yesterday, following Ranil, and a member of the local constabulary put the sirens on and pulled Ranil over to the side of the road. Any truth in the rumours, Ranil, that you were speeding or drunk while driving?
My lawyers have advised me not to comment, and until further notice. So
good lad. That's the way. Plead the fifth.
Yeah, I heard a rumor about that, Ranil.
Oh yeah.
I heard a rumor that the police officer was a conspiracy theorist and he thought you were the real Michael Jackson.
He drives a red sports car that's like Knight Rider, so
he said
windows and everything.
Last I heard, you were in Jamaica, and here you are.
Boys, we've got a lot of topics to go through today. I mean, there's quite a lot happened since the NRL Grand Final, and we're recording a bit later this week because I'm never at home. The first thing I want to bring to everyone's attention, and then I'll start with my opinions because I've got plenty, and then put it out to the table. It came out in the news this week that in New South Wales now, children under 6 will be banned from tackling in junior rugby league games, and kids will play without scores until they hit 12 in a move to make the game safer and more enjoyable. And that's officially come out now to all the clubs. This has been placed in place in Queensland for a number of years now, I think since 2019. Under 6s will play tag. Under 7s will play tag until midway through the season. But then it's development comps until you're 13, basically. Boys, I have some severe opinions about this. I don't know who they've targeted with their questioning, with their surveying, because I spend an awful lot of time around rugby league parents, rugby league kids, and an awful lot of them. I think I've coached something like 500 kids in the last 4 weeks alone, or 5 weeks, up and down the country, from as north as Mornington Island and as south as Melbourne. And I would not be lying if I said 98% of them are flabbergasted by this kind of hand down from the game. I think with tag under 6s and under 7s, I think there's a fundamental problem with that. If you sign up your child for boxing, you expect them to have gloves on and you expect them to fight somebody else. Well, you bring in tag, you're effectively signing them up for another sport. It needs to be called something else. And also, if you're in boxing and you're not actually able to fight with someone and punch someone, you are either shadow boxing, you are either sparring, or you're punching a punch bag. So you're not boxing. Also, with the development leagues, with no competition, basically every parent is feeding back to me the kids know who have won and lost. And I think what they're trying to do there is target coaches and parents rather than kids. Well, maybe more money, more effort needs to be put in coach education programs. But the other thing is, how accountable are coaches in the game? So if they behave in a certain way, who's monitoring it? and who's making them accountable and saying, no, you can't coach like that. You can't do this anymore. I am deadly serious about this topic, boys. I know we started off with some fun, but I'm deadly serious about this because I think I know many people that have just walked away from the game in Brisbane. We're a bit more relaxed and laid back up in Queensland, so they don't sort of fight that much and tend to just walk away rather than embroil themselves in argument. But in New South Wales this week, I've been down there for a few days. There is a lot of anger. I have heard two people who are quite powerful in clubland already say they are talking about a rebel competition. This isn't good. I believe that they brought this news out the day before the grand final in New South Wales to swallow it up a little bit in the headlines. I think they are making a grave mistake. I think they should be offering tag options and full contact options for parents. I think they should be offering development competitions and competitive competitions for parents. I think we are neutralising our game of rugby league. Yes, I know there are mitigating circumstances. I know that there is litigation out there now and concussions and whatnot. I do really applaud the emphasis and focus in the 6s and 7s on the Tackle Ready program in terms of safety and tackles. I really do applaud that. However, what about somebody like me who came into the game at 13 or 14 years of age? Where's my progression into that? And we talk about resilience and mental strength of our kids, yet we are taking away the winning and losing dynamic in massive spades here. I've had my rant. I'd be interested to see if you agreed with what I said or not. And Taylor, I'll start with you.
Well, I've experienced these rules as a coach of the under sixes in Queensland this year. My first time coaching at this level, my first time experiencing in these laws. I am very concerned as a society that we are moving away from saying you can not be first or second up to a certain age. You need to know how to win. You need to know how to lose. And those lessons, I believe, are learnt at their hardest for young kids. That's when they learn how to win, how to lose a bit more efficiently, can I say. For when they are 13, 14, 15, they're a little bit older. I was someone that hated losing as a kid. I hated losing when I was 15. I hated losing when I was playing football at my current age. I still hate losing. But I guess my early experiences of losing helped me deal with losing a little bit better, even though I still hated it. I'm concerned that we're taking the ability for kids to learn away from them. We're taking their ability away to cope mentally. How do they know how to lose? They don't know how to lose because they haven't lost, because no one's keeping score, because everyone gets a ribbon. I've got no problem with everyone being celebrated when they play the game. And I am the coach of the under sixes who spreads it around and makes sure every kid gets a run. And no matter what their skill level is, I want everyone to develop. I work with individual kids on what they need to work on. But I don't believe that we shouldn't be keeping score. And I'm a big believer, and Lee, you're probably someone that saw me develop as a footballer, that losing was a big part of why I eventually, in my own way, succeeded.
100%.
And we are taking that away from kids at a young age. Now, you can say they still get it at 13 years old, but I think the statistics will tell you that at 13, 14, 15, Lee, there's a massive drop-off of kids from our game.
Yeah, so to be introducing competition at 13s at the same time as you're coming close to that crunch of drop-off is also quite risky.
And let's put the game aside here. Like, I'm invested in the game. I want the game to succeed. Let's put the game aside. You're robbing your kids of that experience.
That's right. That's
more the issue here, guys. Yeah. Rugby league's rugby league. If rugby league dies in 2 years and no one plays it again, I'm still going to be invested in my kids. So are we all. Kids are the future of everything.
Ranil, you've coached in Sydney this year.
Yep.
How will these rules go down?
I think I think the whole of rugby league at the moment seems so confusing, doesn't it? Like, on all different levels, from, even from the professional all the way down to, like under sixes, as you were saying. It's just, it just seems so confusing and hard to keep up with all these changes. And I don't know why, but it feels like it's really this sport, it feels more apparent than other codes. Like there just doesn't seem a consistency.
Well, you can get injured playing soccer, tackling somebody. They don't stop tackles in that game. James, how are we going in England with all this kind of malarkey?
I know that when I start getting involved with my local amateur team, Keighley Albion, they're saying that about the non-competitiveness with the scores not being published. And teams do need to know how to win and lose and get the competitive element in them. I do agree with what you said before, Lee, about giving parents maybe a choice of having a development and a competitive one, so to get the participation up, really. But if you're putting in the key element of the game at competitive level is collision, and you need to try and introduce that in the kids that want to get involved that much as early as possible. Because
sorry, James, I interrupted you there mid-flow. Sorry.
No, it's okay, but the key element as the kids get older and get competitive is the collision and the tackle. So you need to have that integrated earlier on. You can't just put that in at 13 years old.
I'm full of praise for the emphasis on tackle safety, Tim, because that's something I've been banging on about for a while. But a lot of this also comes down to coach education and availability of coach education. Maybe one of the problems that the NRL, QRL, New South Wales Rugby League have got is that on Google, if you're looking for coaching rugby league courses, the person talking in this microphone now actually comes up before the governing bodies for coaching rugby league in some Google searches. And again, that doesn't look good. I get phone calls asking if I can qualify coaches in certain ways. And I say, no, you have to go to the governing body. And they go, where'd you go? And they ask where you go. And then we start the whole thing. Tim, opposite to Taylor, Taylor's coached under sixes, I think, this year. Tim, you've been at under 13s?
Yes.
So you've lived and breathed some of these rules since 2019. Discuss.
Yes.
Discuss.
From my understanding, the rules changed in Queensland when Ben Ikin was in charge. And it was through word of mouth and all that sort of stuff that he's just because his kids couldn't tackle, he changed the whole rules and that. Like the win-lose attitude of kids is needed. Like I've seen this year, kids that have won and kids who have lost, and they don't know how to handle it. They really struggle with it. I've been really lucky in that I've always coached. I don't care if you win or lose. I just worry about from under 12s down. My main thing is if you do what we do at training and you give it your all and you have fun, that's the main thing. And I've always had a pretty good group of kids that have taken that on board and not worried too much about the scoreboard. I think they did worry about it, but they'd ask me at the end of the games, oh, how many tries did we score? I said, I don't care about how many tries we score. I care about you guys. Did you enjoy yourself? Did you do everything that we worked at training? And if we didn't make tackles, how can we improve on doing that sort of stuff? I don't believe that 6s and 7s shouldn't be tackling. My nephew, he plays down in Sydney in the Penrith area, and he's in under 6s and they're tackling, and they seem to be developing quicker than the under 6s up here. Yeah. Because they're getting used to that contact. Yeah. And they're being taught the correct way of tackling. Now,
there's something else to be said too, boys, that if you're tackling from age 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, the game is actually less high octane. You're not having blokes and girls who've been in the gym making themselves 10 kilos heavier and more powerful crashing into each other. You've got lower octane matches, less distance between offense and defense. It's actually a bit more of a controlled environment. I think where the game might be better placed is investing a little bit, because apparently in New South Wales, they're paying for every tag. Now, the other thing with tags is you can break your fingers, and you can break your fingers in a certain way. It will be hard for people to understand this listening rather than watching this podcast, but the normal way to break your finger is from the side of the finger, isn't it? You crash into something, trap it in a door, whatever. With OzTag, you can actually break it, and it's quite regular. You can break it at the end, down into the hand.
You get a spiral break.
A spiral break. Thank you, Dr. Cheeseman. And that, so there's still risks with that. I mean, where does this end? And I've always said this, and I bang on about this all the time. You can probably tell in my voice, I'm a little bit passionate about it. Too many coaches don't teach kids how to tackle because they don't know how to teach kids how to tackle. Now, that's okay. And that means some people reach out to me with help with that. But what is the game doing apart from the Tackle Ready program in its coach education programs to teach that? What are our NRL clubs doing in the region? What are the Broncos doing in Brisbane to pass down to all the kids in Brisbane that this is how you need to be tackling safely? You know, not over the ball, under the ball, blah, 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 blah. Not this foot, that foot, safely. This is where you put your head. This is where your shoulders should go. What are all the NRL clubs doing in their area to do that? We've got all these resources. We've got 30 players in the top squad. We've got junior players who could all go out and spend some time in the community doing this. What are we doing? And
not enough.
And instead, we're spending money on tags in New South Wales, which will bring another set of problems. So where does this end? What we're going to do? Playing the game on a computer or a console? Is that how we're going to go down the road? Is that the road we're going to go down?
Simulator.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think that the other thing I heard in Sydney this week is that the consultation process was hardly thorough, which means they didn't want to hear the answers. And I think this smacks of a certain demographic of certain kids and parents that you get in any team. You get some kids in teams that don't envy the contact. And that's life. You get some parents who don't envy their kids being in the contact. That's life. But the vast majority of people who play rugby league really love the contact. When I do clinics, I get kids begging me to bring in full contact collision games. And I have to dampen their experience a little bit, particularly on the first day. And I have a good chat to the parents and say, look, we might do a bit tomorrow, but it's in a controlled environment. And you know, touching wood, there's been no major dramas. But, you know, this has been sort of rushed through, I think. And I think we're going to have people walking away from the game. I really do. Because at 6s and 7s, you're not signing up for rugby league. You're signing up for a sport called tag.
Well, Lee, I can't. This may sound a little harsh, but I'm going to say this coming from a parental way. Tim, I know you've got kids. Reneel, I'm not sure if you do. James, I'm not sure if you do. But what I can say is, I know you've said there is an element of kids and parents that don't like the contact, that don't want to be a part of the contact. And if you're saying they're the ones driving this decision to run away from the contact, so what? Because something's hard, we're going to walk away from it. Hello, little Johnny. How are you going to change the world in 10 years? Like, you don't run away from something if you don't like it. If it's, you know what I mean? Like, you can choose to play another sport, but you just say, oh, I don't like that one bit, so I'm going to change it for everyone. Well, go play OzTag. OzTag's there. Like, do you know what I mean? How what are we teaching our kids if that's if that's the faction? And the fact of the matter is, how, Lee, you've been podcasting for a little bit now. You've been putting yourself out there on social media. How did you become so good at putting yourself out there on something you've never done before?
Threw myself into it, studied it.
And you did it 100 times.
Did it 100
200
times.
And you did it 300. That's the same as tackling. That's the same as tackling. We're worried about the safety of these kids, and we're taking away all their practice time when they're smaller, the collisions aren't as hard, and they're not running as fast into each other. Like, and then we're taking away their practice, and then we're saying this is going to make it safer. Oh yeah, for right now, because they're not smashing into each other. But in 3-4 years, when they're running into each other and they don't know what they're doing because they haven't done it an extra 400 times over those 2 years.
You could slow down the speed of the play of the ball and make tackling safer. You can reduce the meterage.
Absolutely.
The referees go back.
Yep.
And it still
Like
looks and sounds like rugby league.
The Tackle Safe program, it's a great program. It's
Fantastic.
10 weeks. But unfortunately, I don't see the coaches doing the Tackle Safe program. They don't do it properly. I know myself, I'm a big, I love doing development for kids, especially with rugby league. And I'm forever, if I see a coach teaching a tackle, so like kids being taught tackle tactic like the wrong way, and the kid's not getting pulled up for not putting the head in the right position, I'll go out of my way to go like, make sure you've got your head on the outside and you're always cheek to cheek and stuff like that, so that it gets drilled into them. But unfortunately, a lot of the coaches, because they are parents, they don't have the time, and a lot of clubs don't have the resources to be able to have someone who's got a lot of tackling experience and being able to break it down for the younger kids to be able to understand it. A lot of it, it's a lot of information, but it's not dumbed down enough to be able for the kids to understand it.
Let's we've covered that quite well, I think, and I think we could have a 3-hour podcast on the issue. Before I introduce the next topic, I want to reveal the Facebook quote of the week, the Facebook reply of the week, and it only came in 17 minutes ago. So the Facebook gods must know what's happening, and it's from a guy called Brett Boots. I don't know if it's his real name or indeed it's a he. Quote, "You both take it in the ass and mouth," unquote. Who are they talking about? Ranil, who are they talking about?
Oh. I don't want to get in trouble here.
Brett is referring to Ivan Cleary and Gus Gould, boys.
Oh, phew.
Because I did a post a day or so ago about the Penrith Panthers Rugby League story being quite a remarkable one. I was at the club 2010, 2011, and I was basically sacked by Gus Gould without even meeting him. He just did a clear out of coaches when he arrived. But the club was a mess. The club was underperforming in every grade. That season, my team finished the highest out of everyone in the club. Our junior grades and our lower grades were playing against teams like the Roosters, Manly Sea Eagles and whatnot, and they had more Penrith juniors in than we did, or some better Penrith juniors. What Gus did was come in and put a ring around Penrith, stop people leaving, bought back the farm, did some great work out in the bush, built an academy. And I did a post saying that, and then also that Ivan Cleary was probably the icing on the cake in terms of he was probably the right man to move it on to the next level. Now, where Gus did get it wrong, and some people decided not to read this bit of my post, but Gus probably wasn't great when he meddled in first grade matters. But I'll start with you, Tim, on this one. The Penrith Panthers story is an absolutely fantastic one, isn't it? They've won every competition this year, apart from the ladies' competition, but that's because they didn't put a team in. And the Harold Matthews, they didn't win that this year, but they won the SG Ball, the Jersey Flag, the reserve grade, and they won the NRL, as we know.
Yep. Fantastic. My nephew plays in the Penrith area, and what they have in place is absolutely fantastic. More clubs should take that on board and actually follow that. It's brilliant on how they've done it. Like, that is a team. It doesn't matter how old they're going to get. Those guys are going to be playing together, and at any time, the halves can switch out. We saw it this year, like when both the halves for the Panthers were out. The two New South Wales Cup guys came up, played NRL, and they didn't miss a beat.
No.
But that's instilled through the whole club.
Yep.
Even they said on one of the interviews after the game, the NRL boys actually do part of their preseason training with everyone, like all of each individual team going down, all of their representative teams going down in like the Harold Matthews, the SG Ball and everything like that. they come in and they spend time with the NRL players doing their preseason so that they know what's expected of them and the level of commitment.
You don't live far from Penrith, Ranil.
Yeah.
And you certainly, the police know how to find you. But what vibes do you get from Penrith Panthers in terms of community work, in terms of general coaching, in terms of kids that you might know that are in their system?
Yeah, exactly. I think they do a lot in the community, and you know, you can definitely see that, especially with I kind of feel like the league needed you know, a new dynasty, you know, apart from Melbourne and, you know, Manly, all those teams. So it's good to finally have something out in the West, even though I don't support Penrith, but definitely, you know, like and sort of I do enjoy the work with what they do with the community.
Taylor, any experiences you had along the way with your playing career, or people that you know? We both know the Beast, don't we? The Beast from the East. He was in the Penrith system.
It was.
Gus Gould promised him a contract apparently when he was just out the womb.
Yeah,
and he honoured it.
I believe that. And we knew Nick Walker was out at Penrith for a little while as well. We knew a couple of blokes out there.
Yeah.
Look, one thing I will say is that there was a lot of hype when I was at St George in the 2010s, 2011 sort of eras. Wayne Bennett started something called the High Performance Unit. That it was regardless of age or anything like that. If you were in the top, whatever, so performers in your age group, even in the rep team. So the rep team, I played in the SG ball side. There was only about 6 or 7 of us in the High Performance Unit, which were sort of the blokes that they'd signed or earmarked to go to 20s and then, you know, obviously progress from there. That was something he'd started at the Broncos, and apparently was one of the stipulations in 2010 when he come to, or 2009 or whenever it was, and he come to St George, and he wanted to start this High Performance Unit. At the time, I remember hearing it and going, geez, that's, you know, he's looking for the future. He's investing in the young guys. And I was 17 or so myself. I was like, how good is this? You know, Gus and Penrith took that and said, you know, hold my beer. We're going to do that times 10. And it's paid so many dividends for them. And, you know, around that time, sort of every club has those programs now with their juniors and things like that, just on those special athletes. But what Penrith did is they, as you said, they didn't just focus on the 5 or 6 from each age group or anything like that. They just said, all of you, if you're from between Doonside and you know, wherever, if you're in this area, if you're a good enough footballer, you're playing for Penrith.
Ranil, did you get the tap on the shoulder when you were a kid? Come and play for us.
I did, but they couldn't afford me, so you know, I take a rain check.
James, what'd you get over there? I mean, St Helens are coming up with a bit of a dynasty, but we know that it will not quite have the same finances pumped into it from a leagues club point of view in the St Helens area. First part of the question is, what's the closest thing to that Penrith dynasty in England? And second question is, what are your perceptions and the people of those around you in the old Dart? Who burped that?
Me?
I'd say that going back a bit, I mean, St Helens have got a dynasty now. I'd say going back years before was the when Leeds Rhinos were winning Super League regularly and all the young players came through at the same time. Maguire, Burrows, Simfield. You know, they all came through at the same time. So obviously they seem to sign up the best juniors in the Yorkshire area, but they had a great reputation as well. But you know, as I suppose Bradford did at one stage, because they were signing up the juniors, but then they had all
Wigan had a bit of a phase.
Well, yeah,
Wigan had a good phase. Yeah,
I suppose rugby league culture is in Wigan is still set the big sport, but. Penrith, I mean, going back to this, they seem to all set the same standards. If you get the NRL first team squad involving and the rest of the club, the rest of the players seeing the standards that they're expected to reach and being involved and having a culture coming right through, you keep the players because the standard's good. The good players will stay there, but also they'll get used to that culture and they'll get used to playing together as a team.
Yeah,
and then that'll pay dividends. But,
and there's science that says this works too. Repetition with each other, and
yes,
in terms of combinations and repetition of your skills and whatnot. And it's an absolutely fantastic story. Sorry if I interrupted you again there. I think there is occasionally that little lag in terms of technology.
I think there is. Don't worry about it.
next thing I want to talk about pertaining to the Penrith conurbation is the player behaviour after the grand final. We've got quite a good mix here of generations. You've got James, who's in his 60s, Raniel, who's in his 20s, me, who's in my 30s with Taylor, and she's...
I'm not in my 30s. I'm in my 20s.
20s, late 20s. So let's go through the gambit of emotions here. Let's start with the pup, Raniel.
I didn't see anything wrong with it. I mean, I feel like the NRL needs more of that, that banter. It would only create more, juice for these rivalries and probably more people interested in the game too.
Interesting. Taylor, you can just imagine Raniel with the goggles on, can't you, and smoking a cigar and going, "We're the daddy now."
That's it. Yeah, I think someone's got to stir the pot. So,
Taylor, your thoughts?
I absolutely love it. I think it's outstanding. And you know what? James Fisher Harris come out and said that Para are his sons now. He's the baddest man in the NRL. Who's going to go tell him that's not the case? I'm not doing it. If I saw James Fisher Harris, I'm not going to go up and say that, regardless of what I think. He's the baddest man on a football field. You got to tell James Fisher Harris what to say.
The cheese. What do you think?
I didn't find anything wrong with it. Like, they're kids. They just won a grand final, and at an elite sport. Yes, they're still growing up. Like, they're all in their 20s. And I reckon it adds to the rivalry.
And James, you sat there in your rocking chair. Dozed off. You dozed off for a while then. James, wake up. What do you think?
I'm not doing too bad. I think despite these players being a lot younger than Neely, of course.
Yes.
No, I think they were just letting the hair down after the grand final victory. They've had a great season. And also, when I see the topics that you send, I was doing a bit of research. I was looking. Ryan Matterson, the Parramatta player, he says he actually thought it was funny. So he thought it was humorous.
So my 2 cents is that I got a little bit shitty with it, because I'm a bit of the say that if you lose, you say nothing. If you win, say even less. That's what I always coach my players. But I'm a bit conflicted too, because I agree with Raniel that we need a bit more of that sort of combat type thing, that I'm going to get you or I've got you. We tend to talk a lot about athletes in rugby league, and if you look at athletics meetings, they have 2 men, a woman and a dog watching them. So we need to go the opposite. We need to go a bit more like WWE, I think, and market ourselves a bit like that. So I think maybe without even trying, Penrith have stumbled on that. So to that extent, I agree with you, Raniel. The thing about being kids and everything, the way I look at that, boys, is that we're actually in a very different generation. We have different people who react differently to winning and losing. Like Taylor, we're a bit from that culture where a loss was the end of the world, right? And if we played on a Sunday and lost, we wouldn't get over it until we'd finished training on a Tuesday night, because it meant so much to us. Kids these days, sounding like an old man, they just process a loss very quickly half the time and just laugh and joke on the bus. Whereas we were from an era where you travelled back on the bus silently and never said boo to a goose. So they're different, aren't they?
They're very different. But I think there's a whole number of reasons why kids take those losses better now. I think there's a whole bunch of discourse out there about how winners win and how losers lose these days. And these high performers, a lot of them listen to audiobooks. A lot of them are really in tune with how to win and winning attitudes. And I think, people like Penrith, they're just such high performers. They'd sort of just be at the stage where if it's a loss, it's a process, get over it, move again. If it's a win, it's a process move forward. Now that changes for a big game, which is what this is the end of the season. This is for all the cards. This is for pink slips. This is done.
Yeah.
So yeah, they carried on a bit. They'd probably all been on booze bans. They'd probably all looked after themselves to the nth degree in the lead up to that grand final. And then they were able to go, well, I don't have to worry about next week. I don't have to get into the process of going that straight away. I can say how I feel and express my emotion and all that sort of stuff.
Crack on.
Crack on. And the losses meant a lot and they hurt and all that sort of stuff going back then. But I really wish someone had been there to tell me at the time, like, hey, yeah, you've lost, you played a bad game, but the next one's going to be on Sunday, and this is what you do to move forward. You get back in your process, and I think that would have helped me out a lot more as well, getting over those things.
Plus, we didn't have TikTok, did we, mate?
No, we didn't have TikTok, mate. I'm glad because I've seen some of my Facebook statuses pop up on Facebook memories, and I was a young man that should never have had access to the internet. And if I had TikTok, God knows the sorts of things I would have put up on.
I can just imagine you dancing in your undercrackers or something like that.
Mate, I'm the type of bloke that would have covered my face, but just gone nude in front of a camera, even though the TikTok was linked back to my email address. That's what I would have done, I reckon, in year 12.
Yeah. I think I saw that in the boarding house when I was working there.
Anyway.
So there we go. I think we're all quite reasonably content with that. Taylor, this one right up your alley, and I think this is going to extend the podcast into 5 hours worth. Gus last week basically predicted that the national final of the two state leagues was only going to be one outcome, a very heavy Penrith win against Queensland Cup opposition. You and I have been watching an awful lot of Queensland Cup games this year on Queensland League scene. So myself in particular on our segment, I've been running a critical eye over what's been going on in the Queensland Cup, or the Host Plus Cup, as it is these days known. We also had a big post from Adam Mogg, a former coach, and I can unpack that, but I'd rather unpack your thoughts on the Queensland Cup, standard-wise.
I do remember the post. I remember specifically commenting underneath the post that Adam put up was that I agree the standard has dropped significantly as soon as I retired. It just it tumbled straight away. But no, look, I think what Adams said and alluded to is 100% right. I believe there is a gap issue in the standard of play between Queensland and New South Wales at the moment in the second tier competitions. And a lot of the things he's alluded to fix it will help. I think if you had more salary cap, I've said this several times, time and time again, that we are losing the second best players in this, the second best standard of players in this country. We're losing them to mining towns, to all these little short places where the pub and a local area or a big business pumps lots of money into the football team because that's the entertainment on a Sunday for the whole town. So you've got blokes. I know blokes that have made more money playing A-grade football out in the bush than they ever did playing for professional rugby league teams. That's a fact. Now, when you have $300,000 to spread between 36 players and you're the second best competition in Australia, supposedly the second best, if you're not playing NRL, that's where you go, and you're splitting it up by what? Average 6,000, 7,000 a player for how long they're doing a season, mate. The sign-ons out bush are 10 grand. Then you've got $1,000 a win. Plus they say here's a job in the mines. So you're losing so many players as soon as they have kids, as soon as they go, right, maybe I'm not going to make NRL from that 23, 24 age, which a lot of them make the decision that early. They go, right, well, I'm going out bush to make as much money as I can and make a career for myself. So you're losing them. These kids that are playing now aren't as hardened. That's a lot worse in Queensland Cup because we have a salary cap of 300,000, whereas New South Wales Cup is a salary cap of 750,000.
Well, straight away, that is a perfect bit of evidence to suggest why there might be a difference. Straight away.
It's over double. It's over double. In fact, it's 74. What's 300 plus 150? What 150%? It's 150% more salary cap.
The other thing, Taylor, too, and guys, is that we've lost the NYC, the National Youth Comp. So the best under 20s would all gravitate towards a NRL club to play under 20s. That included Broncos, Titans, and Cowboys. People like you, Taylor, if they weren't content with what they got offered in Sydney or in an NRL club in Queensland, the next thing you'd do would be to try and play in the state comps. So it was trickled down in that sense. Now what happens, if you're a good kid in Brisbane, for example, you're not, if the NRL clubs are looking at you and the Sydney Roosters come in for you or Brisbane Tigers, and both of you want them to play, both of them want you to play for their 20s or their 21s, which one are you going to go to?
Yeah.
Right? So they've done these statewide competitions, but the reality is you're not got an apple and an apple, because I know good Queensland-based kids who play for lower grade teams in Sydney because they were offered what I've just spoken to you about right now, where if you've got the Ipswich Jets or the Brisbane Tigers or the Queensland Cup Club to play for their Colts or play for a Jersey Flegg team down in Sydney, which one are you going to do?
Jersey
for profile, right? So that's the other thing too. We've got more migration going down there. You know there's a World Cup happening, don't you, boys?
Can't wait.
What's the publicity been like for it, James, in Angleterre, which is French for England?
It's a bit mixed out, like I was saying last week, I believe, but on Talk Sport, which is a national radio station, they've advertised it on there, and I've seen it around a little bit. But I don't watch a lot of. I must admit, I don't watch a lot of. Get a chance to watch a lot of Sky Sports or BBC. Right? I've not seen if there's any advertising on there for it, but it's not. But again, I suppose it comes to the finance that the RFL might actually have, but marketing should pay for itself, really.
Ranil, how's Fiji preparations going?
Yeah, hopefully good.
What do you think of Ralph Rimmer's comments that he has backtracked from, but I will bring them up? He's the head of the RFL. He did a speech and he said, Fiji have already arrived. We've not had anybody arrested yet.
I think that's a lie.
Well, he was ripped. He was ripped in England for being racist and all this. I might write to him and say, mate, I was driving past my Fijian mate and he got pulled over by the popo. Taylor, do you know anything about this World Cup? Do you care?
I do care. I'm very excited for it. I think a part of my excitement is the fact that I'm not covering. I'm not commentating. I don't have any extra duties other than the fact that I'm really looking forward to sitting back and watching it as a fan.
If anybody's out there, you need a commentator for the World Cup, Taylor's your man. Get him.
I will do it.
The right price.
The right price, yeah. Yeah, you gotta be careful. It's in England. I don't get out of bed for certain, you know what I mean?
TC, you're looking forward to it?
Definitely.
Thank you.
I've been
right.
I've been following a bit of the stuff on social media on Facebook. There's been a fair bit about the Kumals and also Samoa and Tonga. I've been really watching those teams, and I think it's going to be a very interesting competition. Some good halves for Lebanon. You got Dewey and Mitch Moses. And it'll be interesting to see on how some of these players perform at the World Cup.
As you know, when I host the Rugby League Coach podcast, things are a lot more professional. I've just done some Googling. And Nine's Wide World of Sports report that today, with the Rugby League Cup World Cup dictating that all participations give their players a jersey number that they wear for the entire tournament, Kangaroos are mixing things up. Rather than picking a preferred 17 before the World Cup begins and allocating jerseys on that basis, Australia's assistant coach Michael Hagan devised a system whereby the players who have represented the Kangaroos for the longest get the lowest jersey numbers and the rookies get the scraps at the end, with their numbers determined by alphabetical order. As captain, James Tedesco will wear the customary number 1, but from that point, it gets pretty wild, say the Nine. wide world of sports team. With Daly Cherry Evans, who made his debut in 2011 wearing number 2. Azael, who is yet to debut and has a surname at the back of the alphabet, wearing number 24. And the other names that have interesting... Regan Campbell-Gillard will be in 6. Jake Travojevic in 5. Valentine's Holmes, not too bad, in 4. Cameron Munster will be in 7. Latrell Mitchell in 8. I reckon sometimes he lets himself go a bit. He looked good in that jumper anyway.
And who's number 10? Is it Josh Adokar in the 10?
John Ashokard's 9. Jack White and 10.
Jack White.
Cam Murray 11. That looks okay. Matt Burton 12. Seen worse. Pat Garrigan 13. That's worked out quite well. Nathan Cleary 14. He might actually end up be playing in that position though, as in the 14 position.
Lee,
Taylor.
If Nathan Cleary is not our starting halfback at the World Cup, it is blatantly because Mal Meninga is a Queenslander and so is Cherry Evans. I am not going to sit here and even have half a debate with anyone that's seen a game of rugby league that Nathan Cleary is not head and shoulders above anyone else in the game as the best halfback.
Taylor, you and I and everyone else around this virtual table agrees that Nathan Cleary has been the best half of the last couple of years. However, those of us of a certain vintage will remember a certain Ricky Stewart and Alfie Langer Australian combination. Alfie Langer was probably the best player in clubland, winning the comp in 92, 93 with the Broncos. But Ricky Stewart always seemed to be a better option for Australia. So there are sometimes things like this, aren't there, James?
There are, yeah. Well, I remember some kangaroo tours when Great Britain had won the first test. Was it in 1990 when we did?
Yeah.
The second test at Old Trafford where Meninga scored the last-minute try. And I believe they dropped Alan Langer and picked Ricky Stewart for the second test.
Correct, and then started winning.
They did so. Yeah, that's very true. But going back to Nathan Cleary, his short kicking game. Into how many tries does he get? But for that, with the communication with his team, if the fullback's slightly out of position, he just seems to run them off.
Yeah, the team of Australians that have left him to play elsewhere. Sorry, I should have put Australians in inverted commas, really, because the whole year we've been debating this, haven't we, in regards to origin selection and whatnot. Fullback Alex Johnson playing for Papua New Guinea. Wing Xavier Coates playing for Papua New Guinea. Centre Joseph Sualihi playing for Samoa. Centre Ewan Aitken playing for Scotland. Winger Brian Toto playing for Samoa. 5'8", or standoff for those in the Northern Hemisphere. Luke Keary, he's playing for Ireland. Halfback, or scrum half for those in the Northern Hemisphere.
Oh.
Mitchell Moses is playing for Lebanon.
With Adam Dewey.
Josh Papali'i plays at prop for Samoa. Hooker Apikorosau is playing for Ranil's team, Fiji. Stop applauding, Ranil. We've got a podcast to record. Prop. Also, Junior Paulo, Samoa. Second row, Keon Kolamatangi, playing for Tonga. Second row, David Fafita, Tonga. Lock, Victor Radley, England. Personally, I think that's a great decision.
So do I.
Interchange, Jerome Luai, Samoa. Interchange, Tariq Sims, Fiji. Interchange, Nathan Brown, Italy. Sounds Italian, that name. Interchange, Felice Kafusi, Tonga. And 18th man, Lachlan Ilias, will play for Greece. What do you reckon to that team, Tim?
I like it. It'd be.
Thank you. Oh, you're still talking. Yeah.
I really do. As I said, I've been following a lot of the social media on that sort of stuff. Yeah. I think that's a good team.
Love it.
Yeah, you love it too, Taylor?
Mate, I love all those sides getting around it on social media, posting their NRL stars, because it's showing the people that are going to be supporting those countries. And they're like, hey, we got a real shot here. Like, I don't think there's ever been a more exciting time for a Samoan fan. No. The side that they're trotting out has a real good chance of rivaling Tonga, which has been ever since that Tonga beat Australia. And Tonga really shot to, they started this really. that's been the gold class, has been Tonga, especially for all the Pacific Islander nations. Well, Samoa have got a great squad, and I would not be surprised at all if they push them and get the bickies. So
you can get $11 on one betting agency for a Samoan win in the World Cup.
Yeah, well, look, I didn't take it that far, Lee, but that would be good to see. As much as that's,
Well, in the spirit of the finals predictions that we've been doing, why don't we start on World Cup predictions? Cheeseman, can I have your winner, please?
I think Australia. It's going to be a
James?
tough one, but
James,
Australia.
Taylor.
Australia, if Nathan Cleary's the 7, if Cherry Evans is the 7,
He always has these caveats.
New Zealand.
Ranil,
I think Australia for the next 7 World Cups.
7.
I'm
Seven
going
World
to
Cups.
go with New Zealand.
7
Right,
World Cups.
Have you seen that New Zealand side?
That's what I said. I think Nathan Cleary is the difference. And if we don't play Nathan Cleary in his customary position of halfback, I believe New Zealand will pip us.
Who's going to be his halves partner?
Munster, money.
Now,
Munster with a $1.1 million deal. Thanks for coming.
Cleary has played virtually all his football for the last X number of years with Luai.
I'm fully understanding of that, yes. Well, what's your point?
Everything that we said about the Penrith system, repetition, combination, after years and years and years and years and years, he now has to get used to playing with a fella called Cameron Munster very quickly, who does have his own ecosystem going on and ego and everything else. There are things that, whereas Delhi, Cherry Evans and Munster have played together quite a bit.
I would say that Nathan Cleary is a really good way to run the show. He runs the show better than anyone else. He's a real mastermind. He's a real conductor of the ship. And I think that'll free Cameron Munster to play his more free-flowing style football, which will unleash the better of Cameron Munster.
Raw Rugby League. You can find raw.com.au. Don't forget to give us a plug, Raw, or else that'll be the last one you get. Say that Australia run the risk of being hustled, bustled, and out-muscled by opposing forward packs at the World Cup. That's written by Paul Sutter, who is classed as their expert. Every successful international team in Rugby League history has had a pack leader, a big bopper with a mongrel mentality who will lead from the front. Who's that person in the Kangaroos World Cup squad? Asks Paul Sutter. Tim, who is it?
Tino
Dudar, yeah?
Yeah. Fasual Malawi.
So you think he's a Shane Webke, a Lazarus, or a Tallis?
More Webke. He leads from the front.
Paul Sutter agrees with you that Tino Fasamalu is the most likely candidate of the selected Australian forwards to cause some carnage. He's 193 centimetres and 115 kilos. What does that translate to in feet, inches, and stones, James Varley? Go.
Well over 6 foot.
Depends how big your stones are, really.
Yeah, it does.
And how many of them?
Yeah, about 16, 17 stone, something like that, 16 and a half.
Next week, we'll do more predictions on round one of the World Cup, like the opening fixtures and all that.
You bloody palms.
Yeah.
But
stones. Who thought of that? Who thought of that?
Who thought of kilos?
They walked past a stone one day. So how heavy you reckon you are? I reckon about maybe 15 of them.
Well, what about pounds? Pounds.
Everyone just went, sounds great.
Pounds can be an example of weight or a sample of money.
Yeah.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it. Second prediction. We're only going to do one for next week because next week we'll do all the others. England play Samoa on the first day of the World Cup. Tim Cheeseman.
Samoa. By a big score.
by
Oh.
a big score.
James Varley.
The more you read that team out and linked players to Samoa Lee, which is a point I was thinking about. I think England have really got the work cut out, both with Paulo and Papalai at prop and Brian Teo on the wing. The really
Brian Teo.
Brian
Say all the
Teo.
names again.
So
Toto.
Teo.
Toto.
Brian Brad
not all
Teal.
Pakolai and Paolo. But it was coaching Samoa. I know I should really know.
Matt Parrish.
Matt Parrish, right. Where's he been at before in
Samoa?
Right.
He was Salford coach for about a week.
I believe that he was, yeah.
And he was assistant with Laurie Daly with New South Wales. I think he
Right.
was an assistant at West Tigers for a bit too. So he's done a lot of that.
But England really have got the work cut out on day one.
So are you going to give me a prediction or just
Yes,
tell us?
Samoa.
Oh.
Samoa.
Taylor Brown?
Yeah. I think because it's early in the competition, I think Samoa. It just depends how England go in their trial game against Fiji, really. But Samoa are just big bodies. I think they just blow them off the park early in the. They're really tough people to draw at the start because it's that basic power game where they're so strong. So I believe Samoa will win. Yes.
Renil?
Yeah, I think Samoa too, but it's the first game, so you never. I think the scoreline could be closer than we think. Could.
Mm.
Now we're going to test how many of you know these players. So this is England's best. What?
Are you going to pick Samoa or England?
Oh, yeah.
There's actually no point me picking anyone because both predictions, I've left myself last, and there's no point me picking anyone because you've all gone with one thing. So I might as well just say Samoa, haven't I?
So are we what? Are we going as a theme or an opinion from the Rugby League Coach podcast? Is that what we're doing? Just a group
That's what
effort?
we've done every week. You've meant to be hosting this thing bilaterally with me.
We didn't do that every week.
Yes, we did. We
Tim
sat
G.
here and went South Saw Pen, didn't we?
Yeah,
Right.
but the cheese never changed his ideas. He always said Souths.
Yeah, I know.
And
But
I
we
didn't
went
change
with the
because the cheese
majority.
avoided.
We're a team here, lad.
Yeah, we did, but no one kept score. It's just like in New South Wales now. No one kept score.
Okay. Yeah. That's what we're doing. Yeah. Well, I will now tag yous into this. James, you've got to be last in all this. Renil, who's the England fullback?
It is. I don't know.
Taylor?
Isn't it Mackinson?
Tim?
Tompkins?
James?
Oh, Tompkins.
Well, they could potentially choose Lomax there, I suppose.
He's injured. He's out, Lomax.
Yeah.
Johnny
Is he
Lomax.
out?
Shows you how much you know. You're not doing that much research,
Yeah.
are you?
No, is he injured? Right.
Right.
He's out of the World Cup.
The listed fullback from the zerotackle.com, Sam Tompkins. Pick and swings. Who's on the pick and swings? Renil?
I'm not really good with players. I'm not
Okay.
too sure.
Taylor? Don't stop Googling.
I'm not. There's one that's in my head. I know his name.
Tim?
He's got big
Elton?
biceps. Got
Elton?
big biceps.
I think, is it
Lee Addison, his name, Taylor. Fast,
that's
big biceps.
That's the goalkeeper for English. Not
City.
not
And
the
Premier
young
League.
guy from
D-League or Z
not
League or
Leeds,
something.
from St Helens is on one side. I
Who?
think. I don't know his name.
This
He's
is
got a shaved
This is
head.
painful. This. Why did I bring this segment in? Who is
I'm
it,
gonna have to
James?
go, guys. My phone's
He's
just
got-
about to die.
See you, Tim.
See you, Tim.
See you guys.
You've got Makinson on one wing.
1 point
Actually,
to
Lee,
Varley.
I've not looked at the full squad. I've done this research.
Ryan
on
Hall's
Australia.
the other winger.
That's
Is
Tim
Ryan Hall still
Hall.
being selected? Right.
Well-
He's still getting in the team.
Centres, Salford lad, and somebody playing for Brisbane.
Herbie Farnworth's one of them.
Our Herbie's one of them. Who else? Somebody else who's played in the NRL, actually.
Callum Watkins.
Any of you? It was too painful going around earlier. What did you say, Taylor?
Watkins.
Correct. Good stuff. Stop Googling. 6 and 7. Who's in the 6 jersey?
James Varley.
Yeah.
Tommy
He's-
Bishop.
He's driving the number 6. Not
Tommy-
I
playing
know. Well, that's it. See,
Tommy Bishop.
it.
No, well,
Gary
even I don't-
Schofield.
Even I don't remember Tommy Bishop. I remember Gary Schofield. I remember
Mate,
Paul
I had-
Bishop.
I had dinner with
Bishop
Tommy
of Canterbury.
I'd actually need to look at the squad, Lee. I've not looked at the squad.
This is the whole idea of the game. It's to know how many English players everyone knows.
Well, there's no Gareth Widdop. Gareth Widdop's not in it, is he?
Well, he retired about 20 years ago, didn't he?
Yeah. He didn't. He was still looking for a contract over here. Yeah, he's still trying to come back.
Is he playing up the bush?
I don't know. He'd probably make more money than he would in the NRL.
The halves are going to be Jack Wellesby and George Williams, according to Zero Tackle.
Jack Wellesby in the halves? Because
I just said that, didn't I? I just said that. Did you hear it come out of my mouth?
Oh, I did, but Jack Wellesby's usually fullback in
Bloody George Williams, the World Cup first game's in 2 weeks, but his nose is already there.
Front row. Who's in the front row? Name all three of them.
I can't name all three, but one of them's the big fella, Alex.
Wrong.
No, I'm not wrong. He's
Very
injured.
wrong.
Wormsley?
Yeah, he's injured, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
He's the only one I like playing. The bloke from the Bulldogs then?
Yeah, Luke Thompson, yeah.
Luke Thompson's one of them?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew Wormsley would be one of them, but he's obviously injured, so that's thrown me off. I know Elliot Whitehead will obviously be one of the second rowers.
Yes. We've not got to the second row. Keep that in your thing for the flow of the show.
No, I don't know the others.
Don't just name every English player you know and then put a position
on
it.
Victor Radley a lock?
Yeah. The front row, Taylor, is George Williams. Thomas Burgess. Luke Thompson and Mickey McLaurin at hooker. Now, Mickey McLaurin played in the 2008 World Cup for Ireland. Oh. I know because I did the video analysis. The back row, Elliot Whitehead, John Bateman, Victor Radley. The bench, Andy Ackers, Mike McKeegan, Mike Cooper and Matty Lees. Right.
Mike Cooper, he's still running around, eh?
Yeah. Right, here's one for you. Name at least the 13 from the Australian team that won the 2000 World Cup final.
2000?
Yeah.
Johns at half.
Which one?
Andrew. The front row would have been 2000. Don't think Webke was playing yet. 2000.
What's
Lottie Takiri on a wing? Wendell Sailor on a wing?
Wendell Sailor was on a wing. Yep.
Andrew
Johns was in the halves.
Yes.
Come on, James. Stop scratching your chin.
Right. But was Minicello at fullback?
No.
Right. Was Tallis?
Tallis wasn't at fullback, James. No.
It's
but I know back row, second row.
Yeah, Tallis was in it.
2000s.
Darren Lockyer was fullback. Reneel, point to you. Yeah.
I thought Darren Lockyer would have been too young. Nice. In the centres, Gasnier and Cooper are still too young, aren't they? Shannon Hegarty.
Nope.
Was Gidley in that thing? Matt Gidley getting that?
Girdler.
Matt Gidley did. Matt Gidley was there.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, Girdler was a good player.
Girdler?
Ryan Girdler.
No, yeah, Ryan Girdler. He might have been there.
This is the final. It's just a squad from the final.
Was Hindmarsh in that team? Nathan Hindmarsh at that time?
He was on the bench. He was on the bench.
Right.
Was he Ricketson? Luke Ricketson?
No, he played for Ireland in that World Cup. Mate, I'm going to give you a hint, Taylor. Yeah. You have played with the son of one of the people on the bench.
With the son?
Yeah.
Graham Mackay?
No.
Son of one of the people that played for Australia.
He also played for St. Helens, James.
Right.
Jackson Hastings?
No.
Stephen Hastings?
Cyrinan?
No.
No, he'd be before then, Paul Cyrinan.
Darren Britt.
The Brit man, Darren Britt.
I'll read the team out to you. I'll read the team out
read
to
the
you.
Team.
Right.
Darren Lockyer, fullback. Matt Rogers, Wendell Sailor, wing. Matt Gidley and Adam McDougall, centres.
Right.
Mad Dog.
Fittler at 6. Kamali at 7.
John's at 9.
John's at 9. Yeah, I accidentally said he was at half before. Webke and Robbie Kearns at prop. Tallis and Fletcher, the second rowers, Brian Fletcher. Scott Hill, the lock. Trent Barrett, Nathan Hindmarsh, Darren Britt and Jason Stevens on the bench. And the most points for anybody who can name the most New Zealand players.
The most New Zealand players?
Yeah, from that game.
Stephen Carey had been playing then. Steve Kearney.
Yeah, he was second row. 1 to James.
Pongia.
Yeah, he was at prop. 2 to James.
Richie
Stacey
Barnett.
Quinton Pongia.
Stacey Jones.
He was at half. 3 to James.
Oh, is this New Zealand side?
Richie
Yeah, they're all
Barnett.
Kiwis, them. Yeah.
Manu
Richie
Butterfly?
Barnett was fullback. 1 to Ranil. Taylor, you're getting your ass kicked here.
Is Manu Butterfly on a wing?
Nah, a bit too early for him.
Ruben Wiki, front row?
No, somewhere else. Lock.
Bench.
I'll
Lock.
give you a point for that. Lock.
Did Vaynicola wouldn't have got in that team, would he? Leslie Vaynicola.
Certainly would. Vaynicola.
Right,
Yeah.
what was he on? Right.
4 to James.
Of course, a
Richard
Bradford
Swain?
Bulls legend.
What did you say, Ranil?
Was Richard Swain in that squad?
Yes, he was. Hooker. Yes,
Oh.
Ranil.
What about Violecki?
I can't
David
see that.
Violecki.
Can't see that name.
Would Ali Lautiti, would he have got in that team? Did he play for New Zealand?
He did, didn't he? But he wasn't playing in the final.
What about Pulatua?
No.
Tony
No.
Tony Pulatua?
Tony or Frank Pulatua?
No. Not in the final. Are you ready for the
Did they-
team?
Yeah, go
Did they
on.
have a hooker called Sid Eru who played for them at some
We've
stage?
already named the hooker, Richard Swain.
Oh,
I'll
all right.
deduct
sorry.
a point off you, James. Three
Right,
points.
okay.
The team was as follows. Fullback, Richie Barnett. Wings, Nigel Vangana, Leslie Vainicolo.
Oh,
Centres, Tony Carroll and Willie Talau. Halves, Henry Paul, Stacey Jones. Craig Smith and Quinton Pongia were at props. Richard Swain was at hooker. Matt Rua, Stephen Kearney were second rowers, and Ruben Wiki was locking the scrum. The bench was Robbie Paul, Joe Vangana, Nathan Kalis and Logan Swan. The coach of New Zealand was Frank Endicott. The coach of Australia was Chris Anderson. I neglected to mention that before. The game was played at Old Trafford in Manchester. The attendance was 41,329. The referee was Stuart Cummins. The player of the match was Wendell Saylor. The score was 40-12 to Australia on the 25th of November in the year 2000. And here's the best story. Tony Carroll went out for the next 2 days, still had his kit on.
Beautiful.
And boots. The
In a
full
losing side.
headgear and everything. Yeah.
I'm just surprised they didn't get the Paul brothers. I'm shocked at that one.
I know. Because
They should have got
they
that
both
one.
played for Bradford as well, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
Well, boys, it's been an illuminating podcast. Any final thoughts, Taylor?
No, we mentioned Tommy Bishop before. I just had dinner with Alex Bishop, grandson of
There
Tommy.
you go.
He just got back from England. He was playing for Whitehaven this year.
Yes.
Right.
And he just signed again. So he's off to Whitehaven again next year.
Well, I mean, why would any Australian want to come back to Australia and Redcliffe when you've been in the Whitehaven conurbation?
Well, he's come back for a couple of weddings and things in the off season. You see,
Mhm. Yeah, okay, yeah. You got to do those things, I suppose. Yeah.
but he loved it. He's going back. He can't wait.
Mhm.
You know, so
How's the weather over there, James? I'm getting ready to do my 2-week tour of
It's
the
cold, a
UK.
lot colder, Lee. Colder. I'm starting to get my thicker, warmer clothing out now. I've just caught a bit of a cold this week, so
Yeah, I could hear you. Do I
Yeah,
need
yeah.
to bring some long pants then? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say so. Yeah, it's getting cold. It's been
What
very
about a
wet
big
as
heavy
well.
coat?
Yeah, well, it'd be an ideally. Yeah.
All right, I'll do
bring
that.
your warmer clothing.
Mate, I'm booked out. I've hardly got any days to myself. I'm doing a couple of
I've
weeks.
noticed how busy you are.
Yeah.
I'll catch up with you as much as I can when you're over here. Anyway,
No
I can't-
worries, mate. No worries. Well, I need a driver. Ah,
Well, yeah, that's made public now as well.
I know. We've got to go to that chippy again, you know.
Oh, we have definitely, yeah.
Ranil, any final thoughts? And did you get pulled up by the police today?
No, I didn't. I made sure to drive my my other car.
Ranil was
Yeah.
reading a book yesterday too when I saw him. Do you want to talk us through the book you were reading?
that's probably why he's pulled over. He's reading a book and driving. You can't do both.
I didn't know there was any rules about it. I know you can't drink
There
and
is.
drive. There's no campaigns to say don't read a book and drive. Tell us about your book, Ranil.
It's about this North Korean lady who escaped North Korea, and it goes into detail about life there and her
Move
life
to Doonside.
trying to escape and moving to Dinside and
Is she in Australia?
No. I think in America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that the one that Joe Rogan had on his podcast?
Yeah, that's the one.
Mm.
Yeah.
She's quite an attractive lady. I think that's why Reneel bought the book.
That's why you would buy the book, Lee. Don't put words in my mouth.
Don't pretend like either of you blokes can read. You bought the audio book, let's be honest.
No, I got the real cover. Lee can testify.
Yeah, no, he's got a real book. I went, yeah.
You might need Lee to testify. Sounds like you're getting pulled over a hell of a lot, Renee.
Oh, it was hilarious. It was hilarious.
The book is the cover up.
No pun intended. Let me just check if I've got any good Facebook quotes I can add to.
That's the best.
I know.
That made my night. I'm going to
Oh,
start
I've been called Seth MacFarlane from the old picture from the Greg's days, mate. Twice now. So that's
Seth
came in
MacFarlane.
9 minutes ago. Seth MacFarlane.
You were a bit of a good looking lad back then in your 10 years ago.
What do you mean back then? There's only one king. I'll see you later, boys.
See you, lads.
See you, mate.
Yeah.